Here we go with the draft. There is Memory's Journey for the Spider Spawning deck, but we opened Silent Departure, and Silent Departure is one of the best cards in this set, and I think not many people have thought that from the beginning, but it has just won so many games that I'm almost always first picking it currently. It's also Sulfur Fall, Screeching Bat, but Silent Departure, easily the best card in the pack. Next up there is a second Sulfur Falls, some red vampires, Spectral Rider, Blazing Torch. Blue cards aren't really an option, so going with the highest power level, I think it should be Spectral Rider because it's better than Blazing Torch. Blazing Torch is colorless, but I think it doesn't offer that much, especially to decks that have access to removal. And these days almost all decks have access to removal. So Spectral Rider, not the greatest card, but I think it's fine. There is Rolling Templar, Unburial Rites, Armored Scarp, and Mulch. Well, quite a lot of cards. Moment of Heroism, Villagers, Blazing Torch, Smite, all playable at least, even pretty good at times. Flashback cards can be good in conjunction with something like Silent Departure, going for Burning Vengeance or Self-Mill. But we currently don't have a reason to go that way. However, Armored Scarp is a very powerful blue card and fits very well with all flashback cards and all milling strategies. So I think we just go with the Scarp here and see where this takes us. Next up, there is a Deranged Assistant in blue, Dark Thicket Wolf as the best green card. All the other cards are pretty bad. Tribute to Hunger is usually not good, and Vampire Interloper is kind of in the wrong set. So we should be keeping, we should keep picking blue mill cards, I think. Next up, no more blue cards, but a Monstrosity, which I've seen going around quite late, even though I think it's quite potent. Traveler's Amulet, Orchard Spirit, being the alternatives. I'm just picking up the rare and might be playing it, who knows. Now, Traveler's Amulet and Thraben Sentry are in the pack, as is Orchard Spirit, but there's really no reason to pick a mediocre green card at this point. We really don't know if we are going to play this rare. I think Thraben Sentry is better than all the other cards in the pack. We already have a Spectral Rider, so there might be some kind of blue-white deck coming our way. Woodland Cemetery, currently not that high on our list. Stitcher's Apprentice is quite good, as is Mark of Patrician. These cards do have some utility, but probably not in the deck we are trying to draft, even though we have Thraben Sentry. It's just not what we are looking for currently. I don't like Stitcher's Apprentice that much. I think Selfless Cathar is probably even better. Another underrated card. It interacts very nicely with our Thraben Sentry and also with the Spirit tokens or other unblockable creatures. I think I'm picking it up here just to see if there might be some blue-white semi-aggressive deck possible. That's a quite late Thraben Sentry. I think this card is still undervalued by a lot of people. Now the pack we opened has Cobbled Wings, Night Revelers, and Curse of the Bloody Tomb. I don't think I need some sideboard cards, but I might play Cobbled Wings if things align. Now Ghostly Possession, not something I'm interested in if I'm not trying to mill them. We could pick up Lost in the Mist to make up for our lack of 5 drops. The alternative would be Frightful Delusion. Both aren't the most spectacular cards, but I think Lost in the Mist offers a better effect for the mana we pay. Moment of Heroism, always nice if we have white cards, especially Thraben Sentry, because it will almost always get blocked immediately. Here we pick up a Spare from Evil, which could even be main deck. Thraben Purebloods. The white is flowing, even though we didn't pick up the top commons in white, but that shouldn't concern us at this point, I think. Now, blue also didn't really appear to be completely open, because Silent Departure, Deranged Assistant, and Armored Scarp are powerful cards, but also not considered to be the cream of the crop. Although I think Silent Departure is the best blue common, there's still a lot of people that pick up to 3 cards instead, and that would be Forbidden Alchemy, Stitch Drake, and Claustrophobia in reverse order. Here we go, opening up Mind Shrieker, and there is also Spectre Rider, Thraben Sentry, Smite the Monstrous, and Brimstone Volley in the pack, but the rare is perfect for what we have right now, most likely being a blue-white aggressive deck, and Mind Shrieker just closes out games incredibly fast. Spectre Rider, we already have one, we would like another one, but Mind Shrieker is just so much better. Next up there is Back from the Brink, Forbidden Alchemy, Blazing Torch, and Armored Scarp. I think Armored Scarp being almost always better than Elder Cathar, even though it has also some nice interactions. Now that we know that we are blue-white, the Blazing Torch gains in value because it offers an effect that blue-white can't really copy in an easy way. And I think because we are not that keen on self-milling currently, it should be the pick instead of one of the 3 drops, and we might even wheel one of them. Now that's a booster of 1/1s with Invisible Stalker, Doomed Traveler, and Selfless Cathar, also a Claustrophobia in the pack. So this is, I think, between Claustrophobia and Invisible Stalker, because even in the second pack, Invisible Stalker still has quite a lot of chances to grow by picking up some kind of equipments or enchantments. Claustrophobia would add to our removal suit, and I would also like to have another 1-drop, but we already have one Selfless Cathar and might even be able to table one of them. The fact that we are probably tabling one of the creatures and we don't have that much hard removal yet makes me want to pick Claustrophobia. It's always sad to pass an Invisible Stalker, but we have some other ways to win already, and we might not even want to add too much equipments to our deck. This is usually the point where you get past Butcher's Cleaver, but we didn't, so here we could pick up some mana fixing, Smite the Monsters, or Cloistered Youth, and even though Cloistered Youth puts you under a clock yourself, I think it's quite powerful to open up with a 3-power creature on turn 2, and the life loss can be mitigated through different means. Next up there is another Isolated Chapel, Unburial Rites, but this is not the deck to splash Unburial Rites, considering the creatures we have currently. Elder Cathar is competing with Abbey Griffin. I think Twice is not really an option, but Elder Cathar should make a very nice addition to the deck. Being a 3-drop that comes down before Thraben Sentry makes it better than another 4-drop. That's quite a late Voiceless Spirit, which is always better than Unruly Mob and Sharpened Pitchfork. I know there's some fans of Sharpened Pitchfork, but currently I want all the good creatures I can get. Now, here we have the choice between Deranged Assistant and another Elder Cathar. Of course, Elder Cathar also being very good with, in conjunction with Invisible Stalker. And we already have one Deranged Assistant without much to flashback, except for Silent Departure. So I think Elder Cathar is more powerful in this kind of deck. Next up, there is an Avatar Ghoul, Silver Inlaid Dagger, Rebuke, and Urgent Exorcism. Rebuke is okay, but not great. And I think Silver Inlaid Dagger is just much more powerful. We have quite a lot of cards that can wheel it. I still have a very small hope to table the Invisible Stalker, but even then almost all our creatures are very well equipped to carry the dagger. This is Thraben Sentry number 3, which makes Selfless Cathar much better than Doomed Traveler, in my opinion, and I'm gladly playing 3. Stitcher's Apprentice, also nice to interact with the sentries, and it's not a bad card anyway. The 2 Elder Cathars also have some nice triggers. We can get rid of Cloistered Youth, or rather Unholy Fiend. Passing some powerful cards for the archetype driven decks in Spider Spawning and Burning Vengeance, but we get a good card for our cause. Now here we have Fretful Delusion and not much else, although Ranger's Guile and Disciple can be quite good. Let's just pick up the on-color card. I think none of the run drops tabled, so there must be quite a lot of people picking up blue and white cards. And we just get some unplayable stuff. Let's hide a couple of cards. We can hide green and red. Now, this is 26 cards, but of course we won't play most of them. I'm actually inclined to play Spare from Evil in this kind of deck. I think with Thraben Sentries growing huge, could be quite powerful. We probably won't play Lost in the Mist, but even then, even if we hide these cards, we have 18 cards with 13 creatures, meaning that we should easily get enough playables in the third pack. And here we have the High Priest, but also a Midnight Haunting, which is one of the best white uncommons, in my opinion. Some more playable cards, maybe we wheel something like one of the white cards, but Midnight Haunting is an easy pick here. Let's hope that the High Priest doesn't pose too much of a problem. We have a Blazing Torch at least. Now this is very interesting. Gavany Township, one of the most powerful lands in this set. Mausoleum Guard, also very strong. Gallows Warden is okay. Its effect is not that interesting, so it's basically a 5 mana 3/3 flyer. I think Mausoleum Guard is superior and would fit very nicely into our deck. The question is if Gavany Township isn't like so much better that we just have to pick it up. And I think a Township, even on the splash, is so strong that I'm passing up the 2 white cards in favor of the Township here. It would mean playing something like Township and 2 Forests to support it, but I don't have any Chapel Geists, which makes my mana somewhat better. I might play 18 lands with the Township, but I still think the games where we draw it and the Forest are going to be very much in our favor. Now, Curiosity is not something I'm looking to pick up, especially not as my third pick. So I think Falcon Red Noble could be the hate draft here. There's really nothing in this pack for me, and I'm not going to splash any of the green cards. So I have some trouble dealing with the Noble, and I'm taking it out. That's a nice gift in Abyssinian Priest, better than Abbey Griffin and Dissipate. Sensory Deprivation also nice, but the creature, and it's a human, just make it far superior. Intangible Virtue, we passed up on Mausoleum Guard, and we only have, I think, Stitcher's Apprentice and 1 Midnight Haunting, making it too bad to consider. Makeshift Mauler is interesting, but we already have 3 Thraben Sentries, and we really want them to flip, which means that our opponent is interested in not killing our creatures, which makes Makeshift Mauler a problem in many ways. I could see myself picking One-Eyed Scarecrow here, because it adds some way to interact with the opponent's flyers, or make our combat against opposing flyers better. But it's very possible that Makeshift Mauler is just so much stronger that we should pick it up, and I think that's the case, especially because we want all our creatures to be able to attack. That's a very nice flyer that also has an aggressive ability, and there isn't anything else anyway. Now, Runic Repetition, you always have to be careful of the corresponding decks that abuse it, but Stitcher's Apprentice is insane for our deck. Now, we won't play a second Spare from Evil, but the other cards aren't really a concern. The Oberg, I like the effect. Even with something like 3 Thraben Sentries, we could play it, but our deck is so powerful that we probably won't. We could take out Typhoid Rats, but I have quite a lot of respect for the equipment. I won't play a second Lost in the Mist, but I might lose to Burning Vengeance. So I have all my playables and more, so I'm just picking up whatever I feel to be more dangerous. This could actually be the deck. Now that I look at it, we'll of course check what other cards we have, but this would be a 17 land deck with a lot of good blue and white cards, and Gavony Township, an additional Gavony Township. Thraben Purebloods not going to make it in, so we can take out Keswick Wolf. I think these Thraben sentries should really pull their weight. That's quite late sensory deprivation, which is nice. Let's take out the witch so nobody gets any curses, and then we can go to deck building. So that's what it looks like when we add up all the relevant cards. There's a Spare from Evil, which I could see myself playing in the main deck almost every time, but then it's usually worse than the alternatives. Frightful Delusion, not a card I'm very fond of. Lost in the Mist probably won't make it as well. The artifacts aren't very strong, considering we just have better options here. I really want to play the Township, even though it's going to put some kind of strain on our mana base, but apart from Spectre Rider and Claustrophobia, all our cards are single color, which should be so we should be able to support the Township with 2 forests and still have a good shot at drawing the at least 1 island and 1 plains. Now, I'm not going to include any of these other cards. 17 creatures is also great. The only problem is that right now we have, without the Township, we have 24 cards, and that means we have to cut 1 more card. Makeshift Mauler is actually pretty good because we have Armored Scarp and Deranged Assistant and 2 Stitches Apprentice, which means that we are very likely to be able to cast it. Silver Inlight Dagger should be quite good. Blazing Torch is definitely in the deck, so I think it's between Sensory Deprivation or Moment of Heroism as the card that should be cut. And Moment of Heroism interacts so well with Thraben Sentry, and we want to be as aggressive as possible, so I'm in fact cutting a Sensory Deprivation because I think it fits the worst to the style of deck we are trying to build here. But we could easily board it in if there's some creatures we have trouble blocking. And I think this gives us some very nice effects to also to play at instant speed or to mess with the opponent's tempo. Now, I already said that we want 2 forests, which means that it's probably going to be 7/7/2, maximizing our chances to draw each of the basic lands. There is more white cards, and Spectre Rider is going to be hurt by including only 7 plains, but I think the shot at having both cards, both the colors of our main colors in white and blue, is worth it. So let's hope that the Gavony Township helps us more than it hurts us, and that this deck performs as expected.